Hi, you guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of Tips with T. On this episode, we will be having an interview today with Mr. Ryan. Mr. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm excited and honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the show today. I am so excited to hear about your accomplishments and what you have um, dealt with so far in your journey as becoming an entrepreneur. But can you share with us your um, tell us more about yourself and how you became financially free.
Yes, I've now been a part of 12 mobile home park transactions, roughly 1,300 pads. If you can see me, I am literally working from home right now. I have my puppy at my feet. I have my son, he's 6 months old, in the other room. And I have reached financial freedom. Man, it took many, many years, many hard battles, a lot of hard work, a lot of luck, and a lot of sacrifice. But I got here now. I can work from home. I have two full-time employees and a bunch of 1099 employees. And, it's just, so I'm 32 years old. I'm a millennial. And let me tell you, this is what I was told growing up. You go to school, you study hard, you'll get into a good school. You get into a good school, you study hard, you'll get a good job. You get a good job, you work really hard. And then one day you'll be able to retire on a beach with a
Right.
margarita. And it turns out almost none of that is true at all. I mean, it's like I worked my tail off in school and I went to a good school. I went to Wake Forest University, great school. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was my dream school and I got to go and it was wonderful. I went back, got my master's degree there, but I got saddled with student loan debt and I had no money. And then I switched a couple jobs. And basically what I found is I just working for someone else, it just, man, you feel stuck. You feel stuck. You feel depressed. I don't think I've ever been as depressed. And it doesn't make any sense. I get paid well to do a whole lot of nothing, sit in air conditioning, have like a wonderful life situation. And it's so depressing feeling like, dude, I don't want to get promoted and I don't want to, and I can't leave because I have this lifestyle. I can't leave. And so it's just like, oh man. So I'm not, and I'm not, and I don't feel like I'm building wealth because all of it's either going to student loan debt or my house or my car and all of this stuff. And so flash forward about really like 10 years later. And I am now at the point where my wife, like she was saying last night, she's like, you know what? You know how I know we're doing all right is when I go to Harris Teeter to get some groceries and I see something I really want, and I'm like, that's outrageously priced. She's like, but I guess I want it. All right, whatever. I'll throw it in the cart.
Mhm.
It's like, that's a really good spot to be where you don't have to be like, oh man, I only have $50 to spend on groceries this week. Oh, I really want that. That's really overpriced. But, so long story short, I just, I'm a millennial and I was just utterly sick of listening to what other people told me I should do and what I could do and couldn't do. And I said, you know what? What's the worst case that's going to happen here? If I fail, I'll just go back and get a job. So I made a big bet on myself. And thankfully, with a lot of hard work and a lot of luck and a lot of sacrifice, I now work at home with my child and my puppy, my wife.
That's awesome. A lot of people, they don't, it is miserable when you try to go to school and then you try to go out there and get a job and it's like, okay, this is not fulfilling at all. So
Mm-mm.
that's another reason why I wanted to step out into being an entrepreneur because I just got tired of going to work and working a 9 to 5 and not being fulfilled. It was just basically like, okay, basically almost like you're a robot, so to speak. You wake up and you go to work 9, get off at 5, and you go home and prepare yourself for the next day again. It wasn't fulfilling for me. And especially when you have a purpose and desires to help other people or just to, utilize your resources. A lot of people, I guess, really take that for granted as far as trying to step out and create their own business.
One of my favorite quotes of all time was from actor, comedian Jim Carrey, who in so many words said, you can fail trying to help someone else chase their dream, and you could go and chase your dream and fail doing that. So you might as well, but and of those two options, one of which will actually bring you happiness. And that's exactly what I did in my life. It took me years to find what I was meant to be when I grew up, so to speak, and to get into entrepreneurship. And it was really, really scary at times, knowing what I had to sacrifice and what I had to do. And I just, that quote really rung home with me, because I was like, you know what, I might fail at this, but I know for a fact that if I stay in corporate America, I will never be happy.
Right. I always wanted to work my way up the corporate ladder, but then once I got there, I was like, no.
It's,
No,
it's just not, yeah.
Yeah. You get tired of trying to make other people rich when you can do that for yourself. So.
Yes.
Right. So, speaking of which, what are the mistakes that you have made or the challenges you have made becoming an entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh, we could talk for hours about this. So we could talk about how you can get bad advice. We could talk about how we picked a CPA that wasn't real estate specific, and they gave us advice that was good advice, just wasn't appropriate for us. I mean, we could talk about the contractors I've hired that weren't right. We can talk about how we were like, accounting's not a big deal, and then we brought our books to a CPA who was like, this is horrendous.
Right.
We could go on a lot of different directions here. What would you like to talk about? What would you like me to talk about?
So how was it as far as structuring your business when you first got started?
So I own residential real estate. And basically what we have ultimately resolved to doing is having a holding company, and then each property has its own individual LLC. The problem was, when we first started out, is we also made the holding company the management company, which makes it kind of a whole hodgepodge of issues, because ideally you want your management company to be an S corp and your holding company to be an LLC, and when they get mixed, it creates all sorts of issues. So basically what we've done to resolve that is create a separate company to be our management company, make that an S corp, and then redo our holdings company, so that way we can keep those two separate. So in other words, how it's relevant to your audience is, you really need to make sure that you are speaking with someone who not only knows what they're doing, because the advice we got, I don't think was wrong. I just think it was not right for what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
So if you're going to learn from my mistake, listeners, it really should be, make sure that the more you understand where you are going, the easier it is to ask someone for help.
Right. I taught this in the seminar on last night. I teach small business seminars to help people, to get an idea about restructuring and stuff like that. And I had one particular lady, she wants to do multiple things, but be basically up under one business. And I was just like, well, you can do that, but you need to have a corporation and then make your other businesses up under that, a LLC. And I was giving her the example, basically, how like Longhorn and Olive Garden and Bahama Breeze, how they are under one management corporation, but they are all their own separate entities. And she was like, oh, I never thought of it that way. But I was like, yeah, you should set your business up that way if you're trying to do separate entities, but they're still relates to one another.
Someone in my network had a really unfortunate situation happen to them that I think is really relevant to talk about here, even though it's not real estate related. So essentially, they had a patent for an invention that was worth millions. And so what they did was they built a company around this patent. And it was going really well. It was in the energy sector, and it was going extraordinarily well. And they got this huge contract with General Electric. So in other words, what they ended up having was a patent that was worth millions, and then a contract that was worth millions. But the issue was they put it under the same entity.
Right.
And in 2014, when everything with OPEC and fracking and all long story short, when the energy crisis started taking, when the energy, what, not the energy crisis, but when the energy sector started taking massive beatings, General Electric pulled out. And what ended up happening was their main source of revenue got stripped from them. And they traveled all around the world trying to figure out, okay, well, who can we sell this to next? And what ended up happening was their main source of revenue was gone, but they still had all their liabilities. So basically, what ended up happening was they no longer had a viable business. And worse, they basically were at the point where they had to declare bankruptcy because they still had bills coming in because they had fixed costs. But because the LLC, so they had a bunch of judgments on them, but because the LLC or the whatever their entity was also had ownership in that patent, even though the patent was still worth millions, the guy who owned the company, basically he has, let's say the patent's worth $5 million and their judgments are $50 million. He could go sell the patent today, but it would still be a net massive negative. So long story short, if he had separated out the LLCs to begin with, there is a chance he could have at least gotten some of his money back, because now it's essentially tanked him and the whole company and everything. So that's a very long-winded way of saying make sure you get the right legal counsel and you meet with the right CPA specifically for what you're doing.
Right. So what other mistakes that you had ran into or that you dealt with when you became an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So as a landlord, you would think that accounting is really easy, right? They either pay their rent or they don't. There might be a late fee here. Maybe I replace this, that, or the other thing, but my bank account's general ledger, that ought to be easy enough, right? Dump it in Excel, put things in accounts, you're done. Well, it turns out there's this whole thing called a balance sheet that I had no idea.
Yes.
Beyond my class in accounting for my MBA, which I got I think I got like a B or B minus, and I was never good at accounting, and my business partner hates accounting. And so we were like, oh, the balance sheet, yeah, whatever. That's like a definition in your accounting class. My CPA will handle all this, right? Well, it turns out sending my CPA, who is not real estate specific, books that were essentially atrocious, did not turn out very well.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up not paying our taxes or filing our taxes until like September for a tiny little property. And this was like in our infancy of our business. So there was not a whole lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it was such a mess, it took forever. And it ended up costing us thousands of dollars. And then worse, they made a mistake on the taxes because there was a miscommunication and we had to do it all over again. And it ended up taking like 2 to 3 months to get everything right and in line. Then we found out about we had to do a corporate restructure too. So it's been some tax issues.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, so that mistake cost me thousands of dollars and a lot of headaches and a lot of frustration. But two things. Number one, I'm glad to say I do things the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I really am, because if something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. So I meet a lot of people in my industry who just try to find ridiculous illegal ways to not pay taxes, and I will pay my fair share of taxes. That is fine. I'm not opposed to that. But also, what's more important than that, I also got an education in taxes and corporate restructure that I'm glad I have now. That had I just had the right counsel to start off, I never would have had to need to get. So again, I think it all, whether it's accounting or corporate restructure or whatever, you really need to have a crystal clear idea of who you are, what you want, and what direction you need to go. Because if you're like, hey, I want to go to New York. Okay, well, where are you? Are you in North Carolina? Great. Are you going to take a bicycle? Are you going to take a train? Are you going to take a car? Are you going to get an airplane? What happens when you get to New York? Well, I don't know. I just want to go to New York. Great. You're in New York. Now what? Right? So in other words, if you can be like, I want to go to Madison Square Garden on February 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern. Great. All of a sudden you can be like, well, all right, does it make sense to take a bicycle? No, not at all. Okay. should I take a train or a plane? Okay, and then when I get there, should I Uber it, or should I? If I took a train, that would dump me off in Penn Station. I'd be right there, right? So in other words, the more specific you can get, the more you can optimize what you're doing, and the less mistakes you'll make on the way. But even still, you're gonna make a ton of mistakes. We all do.
Yeah, we make mistakes, but that's another thing that I encourage some of my attendees of my seminars to do, is to make sure they educate themselves at least a little bit about what's going on within their books. And, you know, I tell them, you know, QuickBooks is pretty simple with entering stuff in, and it helps to generate the balance sheet and stuff like that. And like, then if if it's like, you can get the QuickBooks employment app, that helps. So, but I always tell them and encourage them, don't go completely hands off when it comes to your taxes, because you never know, you might get someone that really completely don't know what they're doing, or that can basically commit laundering through your business, and you have no type of awareness of what they're doing, because you don't even have an idea of what the numbers mean or how that affects your business. So please, like, I encourage people, please know at least the basics, or get someone that you can trust that will show you and teach you, an accountant that's saying, hey, yeah, you're not just hiring me, but I want you to know what's going on in your business. I want you to know what tax tips, what things can help you to make your business better.
This was a great book called Street Smarts. And there's another great book called E-Myth Revisited. And the lessons I got from both of those, well, there were a lot of lessons, but specific to this. So in Street Smarts, his biggest recommendation is do your own books. He's like, do your own books. And here's why: because you will have a finger on the pulse of your business.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I hate to admit it, I still do my own books. Now my CPA comes in and does the heavy lift stuff that requires expertise, but the really overly basic stuff, I've got a good automated system now. I wish I could use QuickBooks, but it's not ideal for property management and property ownership. But from what I saw from QuickBooks, oh my gosh, you can pay a little extra and it will literally download your general ledger from your bank account and automatically put stuff in accounts for you. Oh my gosh, that looks like heaven. But I strongly recommend the lesson I got from there. Do your own books. I couldn't agree more, from Street Smarts and from E-Myth Revisited. Always remember, you want to be working on your business, not in your business.
Right.
So in other words, to a certain degree, yes, you need to outsource, because otherwise you're going to get caught up doing things, chasing dollar activities rather than $10 activities.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to grow your business, make it as profitable as possible. But at the same time, you need to have the humility to go, all right, to a certain degree, this is out of my expertise realm. And also I need to be spending my time over here, not over here. So there's a nice little balance there.
Right. I completely agree. Don't go completely hands off. Know something about your business. So what other issues did you have to deal with besides the restructuring and the bookkeeping? I know a lot of people, when they hire employees, they have issues with getting them to sign the right forms and determine what type of employee they want them to be, whether they want them to be a W-4 employee, a W-9. So did you have any issues with that?
Absolutely. So thankfully, we've partnered up with a really good payroll company who handles all of that for my full-time employees. But my first full year for 1099 employees was, I didn't really realize that I actually had to get them to do a W-9 form, which is not a big deal as long as you can get it done by the 31st of January, which includes them signing a W-9 form. And it turns out, which I didn't know when I started out, a lot of people don't like paying taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people know, hey, go ahead and write me that check.
Right.
And if it's over $500 and you don't have a signed W-9 with their social and mailing address and all that stuff, then you can't get it out by January 31st. Then you have to pay penalties. And worse, a lot of people turn into ghosts.
Yes.
And let's just say, So the last year I had to file all zeros on someone was 2017, and it was a roofer who just something just didn't feel right about the guy, but everything checked out. He had a business license, insurance, the works, did fine work, and then, hey, can you write the check to me? Yeah, sure, not a big deal, whatever. And then it turns out, as soon as January came around, I didn't have a W-9 on him. I called him. He's like, oh, yeah. Oh, I'll get that to you. Oh, I don't know my social by heart. I'll have to swing by. Yeah, never heard from him again. Started screening my calls. Started calling him from other numbers. And he just disappeared off the face of the earth. And so that was the only time I ever had to zero out someone when doing the 1099 forms at the end of the year. But yeah, now myself, my business partner, all my employees know if anyone is like, oh, yeah, just go ahead and write that check to me. Great. You're signing a W-9 form right now before any of that happens.
Right. Right. I definitely recommend, like, when you contract someone out, to get them to go ahead and do the W-9 form first. Like, even still get them to do like a little application process just to have something on file.
Right.
Because yeah, people, when they find out they're being contracted, they do tend to get ghosts. They like to take that money and run. Because even with a 1099 employee is supposed to file those quarterly.
Correct.
With the IRS, and they don't want to do that. They feel like it's too much time. It takes a lot of time. But when you're a 1099 employee and you don't pay taxes throughout the year, that's the requirement to get those things filed quarterly. So yes, I definitely recommend get that W-9 form signed as soon as they agree to be a contract worker. Okay, well, I need for you to sign this form, W-9 form, before I put you on as a contract worker. So it was awesome chatting with you on today, Mr. Ryan. You telling us about your mistakes and how you learn from them. I'm pretty sure everyone can learn from their mistakes and how it can better another company or better yourself. So how can people get in contact with you if they have any questions? I'm going to share your social handles.
Yes, please do. So like my favorite rapper Tupac says, I ain't hard to find. My name is Ryan Narus. It's spelled Narus, N like Nancy. I am the only Ryan Narus in the world that I know of. If you Google me, my LinkedIn should probably be the first thing to show up. And then I think the second thing that shows up is my website, which is archimedesgrp.com. Find me. I am utterly obsessed with helping people. I have nothing to sell. I'm not raising money for my properties. I just, for whatever reason, I was wired to just absolutely love helping people. So please reach out, follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, shoot me an email through my website or through LinkedIn. If you want to set up a call, if you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm from, let's hang out. If I can help you in any way, shape, or form, I'm in. I don't need a thing in return. And honestly, the probably the beyond just the fact that I love helping people, the other big reason why I do this and why I just offer my time with nothing in return is because I know that if I can help you escape feeling stuck at your job in a spot that you're depressed and you hate it, which I've been there, if I can help you escape that, you will find so much more happiness. And not only that, you'll go out and help others do the same. And not just that, if you're like me, I started my own partial college scholarships, so my residents can go back to college. I partner with Paley's so we can help build their credit. We do free food giveaways. We're trying to do a financial literacy now for our residents, and so much more. And it is, at the end of the day, so amazing to be able to give back and truly help people. And I can only do so much one-on-one with people and through my company. So if my words have inspired you, I'm hoping that you will go out, you'll find your own freedom, and then you'll help people along the way. So that's why I say I don't need anything in return, because I don't. Because if I can help you get there, and then you can help others too, we can make so much of a positive impact in this world together that it's like I don't need anything in return. I just want to know that by helping you, I can help you go help others.
That's awesome, because I believe it's better when we do things together.
Exactly.
So better. All right, you guys. And if you want to contact me, schedule a consultation, my website is www.mjfinancial.biz. You can contact me at 910-317-0396. And then my email is contact@mjfinancial.biz. And you can also, you guys, find this episode on Anchor. So if you want to go and you want to listen to it, you can go right to Anchor and you can listen to it while you're on the go. And all right, you guys, thanks again, Ryan, for being on this episode. And we will see you on the next one.